You're using the wrong grip. The words sliced through the music in her headphones before she even finished her second rep. She paused, steadying the bar on her shoulders, then stood fully upright, exhaling through her nose. Her hoodie was still on, sleeves pushed up just past her elbows. Chalk dust clung to her palms like memory. She turned her head just slightly, just enough to clock the man standing behind her. He was in a moisture-wicking t-shirt 2 sizes too small, the kind that showed off more ego than muscle. His water bottle was enormous, his confidence louder than the speakers playing Drake overhead. She recognized the type instantly. New membership, too much YouTube lifting advice, the kind who couldn't handle a woman lifting without his approval. He smiled, friendly but too comfortable, already assuming he belonged in her space. She didn't respond. She simply turned back toward the mirror, adjusted her grip again, and dropped into another set of front squats with perfect control. Her form was clean, depth flawless, spine like steel. He didn't move. Watched her like he was assessing a project. When she re-racked the bar, he cleared his throat behind her. "You're strong, surprising actually," he said. She pulled out one earbud. "Sorry?" He grinned. "Just saying, most women don't start with that weight. You sure you're not overdoing it? A lot of injuries come from poor programming." She looked at him, expression unreadable. Then she blinked once, slow. "I'm good." He didn't take the hint. "You know, I've been lifting for years. If you want help dialing in your program or checking your deadlift form, I've got time, no pressure." She replaced her earbud. This gym was supposed to be high-tier, monthly fee like rent in some cities. Private showers, trainers on call, eucalyptus towels in the locker room. But exclusivity didn't guarantee respect. Not here. Not for her. Not with this face, this body, this silence. She headed to the dumbbell rack, grabbed the 70s, and sat on the incline bench. He followed. Not obviously, but nearby, pretending to stretch, watching. She knew how to disappear in plain sight. Knew how to make herself unbothered, unreachable. Her playlists were curated for exactly this reason. Beats with no lyrics. Breath control through the nose. Count the tempo. Focus on the tempo. She was halfway through her second set when she heard him again, just loud enough to catch over the music. He was talking to another guy now. "She's doing incline press with 70s. Overcompensating, maybe. Probably ego lifting." She set the weights down gently. No slam, no show. It was always the same game. Walk in. Be underestimated. Let them talk. She wasn't here to be liked. She was here to lift. And whether they knew it or not, they were already watching the strongest woman in the room. "You know you could hurt yourself squatting that deep." She heard it as she came up from her fourth rep. Timing that wasn't accidental. The voice had been waiting for a moment to pounce, pretending it was casual when it was anything but. She racked the bar without turning around, let the silence sit heavy for a second, then pulled out one earbud. "Sorry?" The white guy stood just behind the platform. Not a trainer, not a coach, no staff logo. Just a member like her, with gym gloves that looked too clean and a tank top that belonged more to ambition than results. He offered a tight smile, the kind that assumed he was doing her a favor. "I said you could hurt yourself. That depth's risky, especially for your knees." She blinked once. No expression, just a nod. "Thanks," she said. Nothing more. She turned back to the bar, reset the plates. He didn't move. "I mean, you've got strength no doubt," he added quickly. "But technique matters more. You don't want to sacrifice your joints just for numbers, you know?" She knelt down to grab her water bottle, not giving him the satisfaction of full attention. Her playlist was still going in one ear, a steady rhythm, better than the one coming out of his mouth. "You work with anyone?" he asked. She stood up again, towel over her shoulder, face blank. "No," she said. "I'd be happy to spot you if you're pushing heavy today. Always better safe than sorry, miss." Miss. He said it like she was a student, like he was a teacher, like he had earned the right to narrate her space with his voice. She placed the towel on the bench, adjusted her stance, and started another warm-up set without answering. Not a glance, not a flinch, just smooth movement, perfectly controlled tempo. Down, pause, drive. Every rep flawless. He didn't take the hint. Just saying, he muttered as she finished. Ego lifting's dangerous, especially when you're trying to impress people. She turned then, briefly, not fully, not dramatically, just enough to meet his eyes. Calm, clear, a long look that carried no anger, just understanding. She knew who he was. The guy who couldn't lift her weight but thought he could carry her narrative. The guy who couldn't stand silence unless he was filling it. The kind who thought proximity to muscles made him a coach. She didn't speak. Didn't need to. She placed another set of plates on the bar, slow and deliberate. The clink echoed down the row of racks. A few heads turned. The staff by the trainer desk watched from a distance. She wasn't here to educate him. That wasn't her job. But soon, her lift would do it for her. And when it did, she would still say nothing. Because power doesn't explain itself. It shows up, moves weight, and lets the silence after say everything else. He kept talking. About quads. About knee alignment. About what he read from some strength coach's book on protecting the lumbar spine. She nodded every now and then, not out of agreement but because it was easier than arguing. Her earbuds stayed in. One volume low. The other just high enough to blur the edges of his voice. She rolled her wrists slowly, checking her grip. Her stance adjusted half an inch. Her breath steady. His shadow hovered near the barbell, like he was waiting for her to stumble, waiting for some excuse to jump in with a lesson she never asked for. She didn't give him that. Instead, she let him finish whatever monologue he had prepared in his head. Let him feel like he was helping. Let him believe she was learning something from the stream of sentences he was lobbing over her shoulder like motivational breadcrumbs. He was trying to coach her through her own warm-up. Just remember, he said, smiling with the confidence of someone who had never once had to prove his right to be in a space like this. It's not about lifting the heaviest. It's about lifting smart. Controlled. You've got potential, though. She nodded again. She didn't roll her eyes, didn't smirk, didn't tell him she had been competing longer than he had probably been lifting, that she had trained with national-level coaches, that she held the record for deadlift in her weight class, that the chalk-stained shoes on her feet had seen more podiums than most people saw mirrors. She didn't tell him any of that. She just smiled. Slight, closed lip, the kind of smile that says, "Go on, keep going." The kind of smile that lets him keep believing the narrative he needs to feel secure in his own space. Because she had done this before. Let them think they were helping. Let them think they were leading. Let them talk themselves into a corner of confidence they couldn't back out of once the plates started moving. She took her time between sets, not because she was tired, but because she knew the moment deserved pacing. Moments like these were earned through patience, through silence, through letting the story unfold exactly the way they expected right, up until the moment it didn't. He kept checking in from a distance now. Half smiles, arms crossed, like he was waiting for her to glance over and ask for more advice. She didn't. She tightened the straps on her lifting belt, adjusted her stance, brushed chalk across her hands, letting the powder fall through her fingers like snow. He leaned slightly forward. This was the part he didn't understand. She wasn't quiet because she didn't know what she was doing. She was quiet because she had already decided how this would go. And when the bar came off the floor, when it rose past his assumptions, when the silence in the gym turned into weightless awe, she would still be just as calm. Because she had nothing to prove. Only something to show. He was mid-set, chalking up like it was a performance, grunting louder than necessary, pacing in front of the bar like a fighter entering a ring. His friend stood nearby, filming on a phone tilted just right to catch the plates. "New PR today," he said, not quietly, finally hitting 4 plates. She didn't look at him, didn't even glance. She was already at the platform next to his, sliding on her belt. Quiet, measured, no camera crew, no pre-lift ritual, just breath, just intention. He glanced over, watching her from the side as he rolled his shoulders. "You lifting here too?" he asked. She nodded once without turning. He grinned. "Careful, that bar might be heavier than you think." She said nothing. He stepped up, chalk covering his palms, and pulled. The plates clanged slightly, bar shaking as he reached lockout. His face turned red. He dropped the bar with a heavy thud and turned toward his friend with a satisfied exhale. 405, he said, like he'd broken some kind of world record. A few claps echoed nearby. One of the trainers raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She approached her bar. No one was watching her yet. All eyes were still on him, basking in his own echo. She added another plate, then another. 5, 6, 7. The sound of steel sliding over steel broke through the room's rhythm. Heads turned. Slowly, then more. A few people paused their own workouts. The trainer behind the desk stood up straighter. She finished loading the bar. 8 plates total. The guy's friend stopped recording. She stepped to the platform, hands brushing through the chalk bowl like she'd done it 1,000 times. Because she had. She dusted her palms, rolled her shoulders back, and exhaled once. No hype, no yelling, no stomping. Just stillness. She gripped the bar, hook grip, set her feet, one more breath in through her nose. Her back locked in. The gym fell quiet. She pulled. The bar didn't stutter, didn't stall. It moved like it wanted to leave the floor for her. The weight rose past her knees, up her thighs, into lockout. She stood straight, breath controlled. Eyes fixed forward. Silence. Then she lowered it slow, respectful, no slam, no noise, just control. The thud when it touched down was final. Not aggressive, not angry, just true. A beat passed. Then another. The trainer by the turf smiled and nodded. She still got it. A few more heads nodded. One person clapped once, then stopped, unsure if they were allowed to. The guy who'd hit his 405 stared in silence, jaw tight. She didn't look at him, didn't wait for praise. She simply wiped the bar, stripped the plates, and walked away. Not because it wasn't impressive, but because it wasn't new. To them, this was a reveal. To her, it was just another set. He sat on the bench, hunched over, pretending to stretch but really just trying to catch his breath and get his pride under control. His friend was suddenly very quiet, busying himself with re-racking plates that didn't need organizing. The camera was no longer recording. The lift had happened, and it had been swallowed whole by what came after. She was gone from the platform now. Headphones back in, hoodie pulled over her head, moving through her post-lift routine like none of them had ever spoken to her. Like she hadn't just ripped open the silence in the room and shown them all the difference between volume and power. He looked down at his palms. The chalk was still there, smeared and cracked in the lines. They had started to sting, not from effort, from embarrassment. Trying not to be obvious, he stood and wandered toward the water station, towel slung over his shoulder, heartbeat still ticking faster than it should have. His eyes scanned the gym, searching for something to rest on. Anything that wasn't her. Then he saw it. A wall just past the turf. 4 large frames lined up in a clean row, each one spotlighted with warm overhead lighting. Inside each frame was a photo, a name, a record. He stepped closer. The first was a man he recognized, a powerlifter, all arms and neck. Deadlift record from 5 years ago. The second was someone in a squat suit, mid-lift, face red with strain. But the third one made his chest go still. It was her. Not in leggings, not mid-lift. Dressed in full competition gear, lifting belt strapped tight, focused, calm, unstoppable. The photo captured the moment the bar cleared her knees. Her eyes were level, shoulders locked, her form so perfect it looked sculpted. Under the photo was her full name. 3-time national champion. Gym all-time deadlift record holder. Olympic trial qualifier. He read the words twice. The last line stopped him cold. The reason the floor was rebuilt in 2021. He swallowed, lips pressed together. He had told her to watch her form. He had offered to help her lift. He had warned her about injury. And she was the reason the entire platform had been reinforced. The silence in his head was so loud now it drowned out the gym music. No playlist could save him from the fact that he had tried to instruct a legend, had watched her warm up and mistaken it for a plateau, had called her Miss like she was visiting. She wasn't a guest here. She was the reason the building had rules. Behind him, someone else walked by, glanced at the wall, nodded at her photo like it was habit, like they all knew, like it had always been common knowledge. Except him. He turned back to the main floor. She was still lifting. Still quiet. Still the strongest person in the room. She wiped down the last bench without looking up. The room had quieted, not in sound but in energy. The usual clatter of weights and thuds of impact still filled the air, but now everything felt more careful, more measured, like the gym itself had adjusted its posture around her. She rewrapped her hoodie around her waist, pulled her bag from the cubby, and slung it over her shoulder in one motion. Her headphones were back in, not to block the noise, but to create her own. That final track she always played when she was done. Not when the workout ended, but when the point had been made. He was still sitting on the same bench, this time not pretending to stretch, just staring at the floor. He'd stopped his cooldown early, something in his rhythm broken since she walked off that platform like it owed her something. As she passed, he straightened, lifted his chin like he was going to speak. "Hey," he said, half reaching out with a palm still dusted in chalk. That was... But she was already past him. She didn't pause, didn't nod, didn't pull out an earbud to acknowledge the sound of his voice. Because that wasn't her moment, it was his. His to sit with, his to figure out, his to carry. The door to the gym swung open, and she stepped through, the sun hitting her face as she walked out into the afternoon like nothing had happened. Because to her, nothing had. This was just Tuesday. Just another lift. Just another round of unsolicited advice folded into the silence of experience. She didn't come here to prove a point. She didn't come here to educate strangers. She didn't come here to win the attention of men who only look up when a woman lifts more than they expect. She came here to train. That was all. She moved through the parking lot like the world hadn't shifted inside that building, like no man had been humbled, like no barbell had been pulled up from the floor with more than just weight. Inside, he still hadn't moved, still staring at the spot where she stood, still wondering what to say that would matter, knowing that nothing would. She wouldn't remember his name. Not because she was rude, but because she never needed it. He would tell this story later, maybe to a friend, maybe to no one. He would start with something about not judging people too fast, about being surprised, about watching someone lift something unreal. He would tell the story like he was a witness, but she wouldn't tell it at all. Because for her, it wasn't a story. It was just a workout. And he just happened to be there.